Hello, welcome to Furious Driving, and this is the first of a new series of talking to car people, the community that makes the cars special. And today with me for the first one is Rev Gompertz.
First? Ooh.
Yeah, the petrolhead priest, the scribbling vicar, the man behind Revs Limiter. Let's have a chat.
Yeah, let's do it.
Get a cup of tea. So we're here at Bicester Heritage, which is where you are the pastor of the...
So yeah, my official title is station chaplain. So my role here is the pastoral care of people who work on site, be they from the Bicester Heritage, Bicester Motion side, or the specialists that all operate out of the site.
It's quite a lot of people. There's about 1,000 people or so here.
Yeah, I don't know what the actual number is. It chops and changes really. Although we've got a lot of people on site at the moment. Obviously we've got Scramble coming up this weekend, so we're getting ready for that. But yeah, my role is about being that listening ear and that for people, whether they have a faith or whether they don't.
Say, yes, it doesn't matter if someone is any religion, denomination. You're
it's
here for
just
them to...
yeah, it's more of a kind of pastoral support for, and there are people who might have a faith and they want to talk about that. There are others who, you know, might just be having a tough time, or just, you know, supporting them in the kind of ups and downs of running a business. And
so it's just being that person to just let it out to which people need, don't they? Just to...
Yes, and I've got no kind of axe to grind, so I'm not, you know, in that sense I would hope I'm a kind of safe pair of ears.
Non-judgmental.
Non-judgmental, that's the word, yeah. So yeah, and it's great, I love it.
That's really nice, yeah. It's a great facility. Not many places, well, not many places like this exist in the first place, but not many places have that extra kind of...
It is quite incredible, and every time I come here, and I come here a couple of times a month for a couple of days each time, I do still kind of drive through the gate with a slight sense of, my goodness, I actually work here.
This is happening.
This is nice.
Yeah, that's a really, really nice thing.
Yeah. So, and it means I get to drink tea a lot.
Well, this is
always
lovely,
good.
But that is the perfect job where you can sit in the sunshine and drink tea.
Sit in the sunshine and drink tea.
And then argue about which is the best biscuits. I mean,
that's it.
Currently on Hobnobs versus Jammy Dodgers.
Oh, yeah, no. I know which side my jam's buttered on. Yeah.
The great thing with that Jammy Dodger, it never falls jam side down.
No, that's true. That's very true. It's like, but toast does, doesn't it?
Yeah,
sometimes toast can,
It's something to do with aerodynamics.
Oh, is it?
Which means maybe they should coat planes.
Do you mean
with
somebody's
jam.
actually sat there and worked it out? That's impressive.
I think people in science labs get bored.
They must have their off days, like everybody else.
I can't be bothered to, solve.
Today we're going to be working at the aerodynamic properties of a Jammy Dodger.
Yeah, and what works better, marmalade or strawberry jam?
Ooh, there we go.
Which falls
Jaffa
smoother.
cake or...
Yeah, well, it's not really a cake. Was it a cake? Oh, I don't know.
Well, it is technically a cake in the sense that they went to court and proved that it could be called a cake.
Oh, that's right, they did, didn't they? Yeah, because people say it went stale in a certain way or something.
So they sized it up into 3 different sizes, and when it was its biggest and middle size, it was judged to be a cake.
Oh,
so
okay.
they just said, well, nothing's changed, just the proportion.
So therefore it's a... We might have gone off topic.
We might have done, slightly.
So you're kind of known for, I think, 3 other things really, aren't you? First of all, your Rover P4, that's a big part of you.
Yeah.
The artwork, which we'll come on to in a minute as well. And also Revs Limiter, which is a great play on words. I love a portmanteau and a pun, and so
Thank you very much.
Applauding that, that's amazing.
Yeah, I think I don't see them as 3 separate things.
Okay.
I see them as interrelated. And Revs is if you could say, Revs is my day job, in that my role as a pioneer priest is to go and be where people are at, rather than expect them necessarily to come to a church, which for a lot of people is an alien environment.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So Revs was set up on that premise.
So how long has that been going now? Is it purely a Facebook page? Or is there
No, so Revs started back in 2014 when a group of us at a local church decided we would hold a classic car show, because we were in a parish where there were lots of people with some really, really expensive motor cars who never came to church and lived on the same road as the church. And I was just kind of sat there thinking, well, how do we get to see these people? How do we get to meet them? How do we begin relationships with them? And the way that I kind of suggested was that we hold a classic car show.
Oh, okay, it started from there.
So it started from there, and we did one in 2014. We did then another in 2015. We took a break in 2016, came back in 2017 at a different venue. And it was growing, but what we found was that once a year isn't enough in terms of just meeting people and getting to know people. So we piloted a monthly meet. Sorry, there's an aeroplane. There's an aeroplane flying off.
Shooting on an airfield.
Shooting on the airfield, the joys of it. So we piloted a monthly meeting in Shrewsbury where we were living, or where we still live. And that then turned into two groups, one further south towards Worcestershire, a place called Enville. So we had those two, and then we were just about to start a third, and then lockdown happened.
Which ruined everything for
everything for everybody.
Again.
Yes. Oh. So
then, in the meantime, though, because during lockdown you were doing a lot of kind of online chats and Zoom type.
Yeah.
events.
So we obviously the one thing we couldn't do in lockdown was get out and meet people and do cars together.
Yeah.
So and one night I went for a walk with my wife, and we took the dogs out. It was our 20-minute allotted exercise time. And she said, why are you grumpier than usual? And I said, well, because I can't get my car out, I can't see people. And she simply said, well, why don't you consider doing something online? And that kind of started the process of, okay, well, what would it look like? How would we run it? And we cottoned onto this idea of, well, if we take a whole weekend and we encourage people to do 15-minute videos just on their mobile phone around their car, showing us their car, and if we try and get some people involved in car media to get involved as well, because they're just as powerless as the rest of us in terms of they can't do what they normally do. So we managed to put together a timetable of a whole weekend of videos that would be streamed back to back with different people uploading their videos at certain times.
Yes, I remember that, yeah.
All doing it live. And sorry, there are lots of them, lots of vehicles.
It's a busy place.
It is a busy place. And there were lots of kind of normal people, regular people with kind of cars in their garages that they were working on. There were the kind of more well known within the motoring community, so we got Vicky Butler Henderson very kindly got involved. Jimmy DeVille very kindly got involved, Mike Brewer, a whole load of
I think
people.
Hubnut was involved, wasn't it?
Hubnut was involved, and Steph was involved, and even Fuzz Townsend was involved driving a bus.
Yeah.
So we got, and then we went and spoke to a few companies that I had contacts with. So Aston Martin Works very kindly got involved. Somebody from here, from Bicester Heritage, got involved, and some of the specialists got involved. So Blue Diamond Riley, Classic Performance, and so we kind of had this whole thing, and I got all these people signed up, and they were all busy ferreting away on their videos, and I got to the Friday night before the event started, and just thought this could all fall horribly flat on its face.
Yeah.
And oh, sorry, there really is an aeroplane.
There really is a plane. It's a biplane of some kind.
Yeah, so we've got Bicester Aerodrome here as well.
Yeah. I did film a video here for YouTube a little while ago, and that was a constant problem. Every time I set up for a take, a plane would buzz past. But
yeah, so we and I remember sitting on the Friday night thinking this could all go horribly wrong, and we could have about 5 people watching, and all these people that I've managed to persuade to do something.
They're going to be, what have I wasted my time for?
What have, and by the end of the first day we had 2,500.
This is great, yeah.
And then by the end of that first weekend event we had over 3,000.
Wow.
So, but I think it was just one of a number of things that people did that just were the right time, because people didn't have anything else to do.
They needed something, they needed an outlet to be involved in, either from production or from the watching end, or just to be involved in something and be with other people, even if it's...
That's it. And what we didn't account for was that people just started sharing photographs. People on that first weekend were doing videos and trying to post them up, when we would kind of got this, we had to say, look, this is great, but can you add it onto the end, or,
wait for the Monday.
But we had it was just incredible. And I got to the end of that first weekend, and a friend of mine rang me up. It was James Cameron from Mission Motorsport.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And Jim said to me, you know, you've made something different here, and you're going to have to work to keep this going.
Can't let it go. Yeah.
And so that's where we've found ourselves.
Okay.
And so post-lockdown, yes, we've got the groups back. In fact, we've grown the groups. We're now 4 community groups in different areas.
Wow.
And we're in discussion with people about potential 4 or 5 more.
Excellent, that's really good.
And these are very small groups that just create a safe space for people to enjoy their cars, to talk about life if it's getting them down. They won't be preached at, but at the same time, they can receive prayer if they want prayer, or they can just talk to somebody if they're really struggling. So those are going on, but we're also trying to develop Revs Limiter, the Facebook side, with the Rev Talk things, which we kind of try and talk to various people involved in the motoring community, as well as kind of just posting stuff up there regularly to enable people to kind of feel like the community's growing. Really.
Yeah.
We're now 7,500, which
that's quite impressive numbers, isn't it?
Yeah, that's. But I don't. You know, we're not like a lot of online things. We're not getting that footfall every day by any means.
No, of course, yeah.
But
it comes and goes, and
it comes and goes. And we were very fortunate and very generously people nominated us for awards, and the initiative got a few awards, which was incredible. We didn't expect any of that. And my wife, bless her, had to constantly remind people that this is not a massive team of people. This is some mad bloke usually in a dressing gown in his study in Shrewsbury. So
a cup of tea and a couple of dogs.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah.
Well, that's really impressive. So, and is there, I don't know, end game is the wrong phrase really, but is there a goal that you're trying to push towards to reach people, for just to bring people together, or is there?
I mean, there are a few goals. Firstly, there is a goal to bring people together, and to kind of promote community in a really positive way, and particularly within the car community, to promote a kind of community where, you know, if you drive an Aston Martin or you drive an Allegro, you have an equal place in that community.
Everyone's the same. It's all just a love.
Or even if you've just got a poster on your bedroom wall,
a dream of something.
But you know, you're as much part of the community as the next person.
It's just a safe place for anyone to come along and be part of that car
and I
community.
think there's something within my own role, obviously, where the faith I have and the faith I'm part of is shared and celebrated within that community if people want to take part in it. If they don't have to feel that there's no place for them. There is a place for them.
They're not being pushed outside. They're not pushed down the throat if they want it. And
so, and I think it's just about being. I hope it's about being honest and real with people, really.
I think it's been really well received. I think people have really who've seen the videos, have seen you sort of talking online and everything, have been quite enjoyed the presence. Really, it's like a nice, reassuring, friendly place,
like a comfortable pair of slippers.
Well, in a nice way.
In a nice way. Yeah. No, it's really interesting because one of the things that we have done in the last couple of months is that Revs has become what's called a community interest company. Okay. So we're now a non-for-profit organisation.
Okay, it's not quite a charity, but somewhat.
Not quite a charity, but with a focus on community building, a focus on storytelling, because that's one of the other values that we hold, is that as every car has a story, every person has a story, and those stories, whoever you are, whether you're famous and on TV or whether you're just building your little car in the garage, your stories are valuable and important and can be shared and enjoyed by lots of other people. So, I mean, for instance, we have just put a post out on the Facebook group this week of, I started it by just a car I'd seen at an event recently triggered a memory, and it was an old Aston Martin, and it was the kind of Aston Martin that got me into cars in the first place.
Right, yeah.
So I shared this, and then I said to people, why don't you share the car that started life for you? And so many brilliant stories, and people with some really interesting stuff, and you know, wide variety of stuff.
Opening up with
opening up with their stories, and I think they're the things that that we want to celebrate and profile and highlight and
everyone has got a point where they can sort of track back to.
And I think particularly in this generation where media turns certain people into celebrities, there's a big part of me that wants to kind of say, well, actually, you know, whether you're, you know, a big social media influencer or big journalist, or, you know, or whether you're not, you have a story, and it's fascinating, and we want to hear it.
Absolutely,
so if we can give people platforms to tell their stories, then
an opportunity to open up
and we had a guy whose grandfather worked at Aston Martin, and he put up on the Facebook thing a picture of his grandfather standing next to Prince Charles.
Wow!
When he'd come on a tour around the factory. You know, absolutely brilliant stuff.
Oh, that's so cool.
That you wouldn't necessarily hear.
No.
If you didn't ask the question.
No, exactly. Why would someone open up and say that unless there was a platform?
Unless there was a platform for them to be able to do it.
Absolutely, that's so cool.
But it is stuff like that. It's you know, and we've all got, because cars are used by the majority of us. Those of us who are petrol heads will always have a story of connection with a car.
Clicked.
And for some of us, it's one particular moment in time. For another, it might just be a growing appreciation of them. You know,
absolutely.
And it doesn't matter what the car is in some ways.
No, I mean, sometimes the more ordinary is the more interesting. Because obviously a Ferrari or an Aston Martin, you can sort of see the reasons for that. But if it's like say an Allegro, then why are you hooked in buying an Allegro of all things?
And that, I think, is the other thing that we are trying to, that we have made one of our key values, is that we're about inclusivity, and people, whatever they drive or whatever they aspire to drive, need to feel that they can be included.
They don't have to justify it.
They don't have to justify it. It's not one brand. It's not one particular type of car.
It's any era.
It's any era, and we've got people who are part of the group who've got Astons and Ferraris, but we've also got people who've got Pandas and Allegros, and they're as equally as passionate about their Panda and Allegro.
Absolutely.
So why shouldn't they feel part of the same community?
The thing I've found with YouTube is that often it's the more ordinary cars, the more mundane, that people are more passionate about, because sometimes those are the cars. It's all, if you can afford several Aston Martins, they are maybe very special cars, but it may not be such a special thing to you because you can afford it easily. Whereas if you've got a Fiat Panda and you've worked really hard for that Fiat Panda, that will really mean a lot to you, because there's a whole spectrum of people.
And I think that's the thing, and I think again, in this day of kind of modern media and stuff, we can be kind of focusing on the hypercars or the pocket rockets that cost a lot of money, or, you know, and actually there's something really nice about the person who looks after their, you know, just 1 litre Panda, you know, and loves it and gives it a name and has created a whole set of memories with that car.
They've taken it everywhere, and they've
because at the end of the day, a car, and I know some people might kind of shrivel up when I say this, but a car's just an inanimate object.
Ultimately, if you're cold hard about it, then
it is. If we're being completely clinical about it, it's an inanimate object. It's a box on 4 wheels or 3. It's the interaction and the human element that then make that something more. Even we've got some lovely Porsches here, and you know, yes, they're incredible as they are, but actually it's the interaction with them. That's what will trigger the sense of enjoyment and passion about it.
The adventures you have with the car make it special.
And the cars are great, don't get me wrong. You know, I grew up reading car magazines. I drew cars everywhere I could. I always wanted to be a car designer. I was very fortunate that I did in the end get to be a car designer.
Yes, I've just discovered this about you. I had no idea.
So I worked I've done a few things in life. I was a psychiatric nurse for a while, and then had a mental health breakdown, and I kind of, as sometimes is the case when you kind of reach that kind of level of needing to stop and rest, you rethink things and you think, well, where am I going?
Reevaluate everything.
And there was a sense too that for me, how could I reconcile my faith and my love of cars, and how could they work together? And really, my whole story is kind of working that out. But yeah, so I went to uni at the tender age of 27.
So after working in...
Yeah, after working in nursing, so then went to do car design, worked for MG Rover.
Was it Coventry you were?
Yeah, so I was at Cov for 4 years, worked at MG Rover, worked at Rolls-Royce Motor Cars.
Oh, really?
Worked abroad for 3 years.
With a name brand or like a part supply type?
So I worked for abroad. I worked for a consultancy, and we did work for all kinds of people.
That's quite interesting, I imagine, because you didn't even know what kind of thing you'd be working on.
There were different projects. So I designed a tractor.
Excellent! Wow. Do you ever see them in fields when you?
I've seen one or two, but they're not made. They're not sold over here. They're sold in mainland Europe, mainly for mountainous and alpine regions.
Oh, okay.
But did some car stuff, and then came back to this country and did some boat stuff.
Wow.
And then finished up at Rolls-Royce before I then went off to train to be a vicar, which is very potted kind of history.
Yeah, a very convoluted, twisty career path.
But I think what I value are the people that I've met.
Yeah, it's always the people that make a place special, aren't they?
Yeah, and I mean, particularly working for Rolls-Royce was just an incredible experience, an amazing team of people, a brilliant boss, and an amazing product. So
which era were you working there at?
So I worked just as Ghost had come on stream, and it was just before Wraith was introduced.
Okay, so were you working on the Wraith project, or were you on
I worked on individual commission cars and bespoke, so I worked for the bespoke team based at Goodwood.
So when people come in wanting a amazingly special version, you would then...
there would be a small team of us kind of working away on that. So that was, and then went off to train to be a vicar, and it was through that training, and particularly stuff I read, that kind of got me thinking about how do you do church in different ways, and what does that look like, and particularly how might you do church with a group of petrolheads who wouldn't normally necessarily want to go into a church. So Revs was the result. Yeah.
So, but then you've had the P4 for
I've had a P4 for 5 years, five and a half years now.
So did you have it when you were at MG Rover? But I guess it's
no. So when I was a vicar, I got a friend who was due to go and have an operation in hospital and was on bed rest for a while, and he got an old Alvis, and he said, and I was off sick. I've had 2 major mental health breakdowns, and the second one was during this time back in 2015. And he said, look, I think the Alvis needs to be driven. You need to drive it, and I think it's good for the Alvis and it's good for you.
Yeah.
So he very kindly lent me this lovely Alvis for 4 months.
Oh, wonderful!
And it was part of my recovery. And it was my wife who said, I think we ought to look for something when the Alvis goes back. We ought to look for something for you. Yeah. And obviously I couldn't afford an Alvis, my goodness.
No, they're not cheap, are they?
They're not cheap,
unfortunately, otherwise we'll be driving them.
Yeah. So I just went looking round and seeing what my £5,000 would buy me, and Wilbur was the result of the P4.
And was it in a good drivable car when you got it?
Yeah, actually it was. It was bought from a chap in Dudley, and I went to see him about another car that he had, and he got what ended up being Wilbur, and he said, I'll take you out in this one so you can see what a nice one's like. And I got about halfway down the road, and I turned to him and I said, look, how long will you wait for me to get the rest of the money so I can buy this one?
Yeah.
And he was very kind. He waited the couple of months so that I could beg, steal and borrow and
get the money together, and
we've had Wilbur ever since.
So he's a 110?
He's a 100, so he's a 6-cylinder 4-speed with overdrive. Nice. He's quite rare in that he's got a Webasto sunroof.
Yeah, it's unusual on a P4.
It is unusual.
How old is that Webasto in the car? Is that from
I think that was first owner.
Okay, so
because the plaque from the guy who fitted it is still mounted near the headlining.
Wow.
So yeah,
that's a lovely bit of history.
It is really. So yeah, now had it 5.5 years with 92,000 miles.
Wow.
The first year I had it, I did 10,000 miles in it. I've used them.
Yeah, that's properly used.
That's properly used.
Yeah.
But we're doing it. We're doing less miles now. But now badly needs some bodywork doing.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah. So.
More money.
Yes. Mechanically, it's great.
Yeah, they're wonderfully strong cars. They're really beautifully. They're so smooth and quiet as well.
It's like driving a sofa. Is the nearest I can put to it, or a double bed on wheels.
Yeah. So I've seen it at the NEC, because you had it at the NEC in November, and it looked lovely. I didn't look inside. Is it a column shift?
No, so it's floor shift. The column shift is for the overdrive.
Okay.
And it's two-tone, so it's dark grey, light grey over dark, and then it's a blue interior, blue leather interior. So it's quite vivid.
It is, isn't it? Yeah, but that's good though.
It is
we want
nice.
our classic cars to stand out and be a bit memorable.
Oh, it certainly does that. But he's become this. He's become a tool of Revs, really, in terms of my own. If I didn't have him, I wouldn't have been able to get into certain places or shows and things.
Of course, yeah. He can open doors to.
So he does, and it's been great having him. And every time I get out in him, it kind of brings a smile to my face.
Yeah, it's the kind of car you can't not walk away without looking back on, because it's
and it's not a sports car.
No, it's not. But then you don't drive it like that. So
no, I mean,
just enjoy the ride.
Enjoy the ride and take life at a slightly slower pace.
Yeah, some of my cars are like that, and there's no point trying to hustle it. And it's not going to end well.
No. Although, because it's not power steering, the steering is, once you get kind of going above even 10 mile an hour, the steering's really accurate and nice. And
well, I've got a P6 2000, which is the same. So it's no power steering. Parking the thing is.
I'd never try and parallel park Wilbur. That's just not. It's hiding to nothing, I think.
Yeah, you just give yourself a hernia doing that.
You do, yeah.
But once it's on the road, it's just so light, and it's like it's like a Lotus. It's great.
It does. You can feel things, and actually. My wife and I, we've got a kind of family wagon, a Volvo family wagon, and the ride in Wilbur is more comfortable than the ride in the Volvo.
Definitely, yeah.
So
does she drive it as well?
She's only driven him once. She has got a bad shoulder, so the car with no power steering is it's not good.
No.
But the nice thing about him, and one of the reasons we got the Rover, was that it's 4 doors, so kids can go in the back. We've got 2 grown-up children, and they love it. I've got a daughter who's got a prom in June, July, so he's going to be doing prom duty. Yeah.
Fantastic.
So
I'll get some looks then. But the Wilbur does turn up quite often in your drawings on Revs as well.
Yeah, I mean, partly he certainly turns up in photographs a lot, and a lot of the stuff I write. So we write this thing called Fuel for Thought, which is a way for people to kind of. It's like Radio 4's Thought for the Day with petrol, and we stick that out both on all the different groups' Facebook pages and the main Revs Limiter Facebook page, but it also gets printed out and given to people at a Revs community meet. And the idea is that we kind of start with something about driving, motoring, cars, history, and it kind of then ends up into a way of maybe thinking about the deeper things of life, and that may more often than not have a faith element, or it may just be something that people, even just kind of mental health stuff, So Wilbur features a lot in that, because a lot of my thinking and illustration comes as I'm driving him. So
the nice segue into it.
Yeah, definitely. And again, this is why I said at the beginning, really, that I don't see the different roles I have as being separate. They kind of feed into which I think is actually. For me, it's a much healthier way of kind of doing life, really.
Yeah, let everything just roll into the next and don't segregate.
And sometimes there are jobs that people do which, obviously, that's not an appropriate kind of way of doing. But particularly, I think we kind of separate life into boxes: social life, work life, and sometimes actually. we miss out on some of the ways that those sections might blur in an interesting way.
Yeah. If you did choose to limit them, then
I mean, like I say, there are some jobs where you'd have to, you need to be able to switch off and be separate from that, and that's quite right.
But then other jobs
you can, So I don't see mine as distinctive roles. I see them more as a kind of a mishmash of stuff.
Really. Just stuff that happens.
Yes.
So have a look at your folder. It's the artwork. So you've drawn since you were young, or was this something you started doing?
So I grew up in a kind of although my parents my mum was a head teacher and my dad was a vicar, and then in their later life, both of them were vicars. But we grew up as a family that kind of did drawing and painting in free time, and we would get taken on family sketch days where my dad would kind of say, let's go and draw a tree or something, good and worthy, and I'd be sitting in the car park drawing the cars. So it's always been cars. And then obviously when I went to university, they teach you how to draw and render as designers, and that's a lot of where my artistic style is probably rooted in.
Formulated more.
So I don't. My work isn't kind of photorealistic, and there are lots of people who produce some amazing photorealistic drawings, which they must have the patience of a saint to do it. But I love that kind of slightly left, unfinished look. Really.
But it looks like it's on the way to being photorealistic, because the lines you get are so accurate, and the curves and the shapes, like the shading on the tyres and things. It's just so impressive when you see it.
Thank you. I think partly because as a designer you're taught to think and draw in 3 dimensions, because what you're creating at the end of the day is not a flat thing. You're creating something with curves and shapes and cutouts and all kinds of different forms going on, and so you learn as you go along to visualize and see things in 3D in a way that that then informs your drawing, and that's exactly what's happened with these, really. So I'll often leave little contour lines as though it was a map, and we do contour lines on design sketches to help our model makers understand what we're trying to convey, so that when we're building something in 3D, they know
they can work out
back to that. So and I think there's something quite nice about that. I think there's something quite...
I know what you mean. It's elemental almost. This is an Aston, I guess. So that's a DB4 GT Zagato. I was very fortunate to land a role for a year as Aston Martin's artist in residence. Oh really? When was that?
So that was in 2018, 2019. So it meant going with them to certain events through the year and drawing and being kind of slightly on display, but certainly visible and producing work that they would use and have.
So you got to sort of travel around Europe and the world a bit doing that?
I didn't. We mainly focused in the UK, but I mean, these are of the cars being built at Newport Pagnell, which was absolutely fantastic, and to sit there at Aston Martin Works and kind of sit amongst these guys who got sheets of aluminium on an English wheel.
Artists in their own right, really, aren't they? So,
and I just sat trying to kind of draw them as they were doing it. So. So that was a fantastic year in the sense of the opportunity.
Beautiful, And so this is all the cars that are on the bucks there.
These are all the cars on the bucks waiting for, you've got cars sitting in various kind of states of being built, not being built. So it's been, it was quite enjoyable kind of seeing that all happen while you were trying to draw it as well. So
to stay focused on what you're doing.
So we've got I love English and I love Italian cars particularly. So I have a real thing for Alfa Romeos and Aston Martins.
Me too.
So and then I love drawing live. So going to places like Goodwood, sitting in the paddock, often kind of sat cross-legged on a little cushion on the floor and just drawing. I love that.
And something about the contour lines as well, it also gives it a sense of movement as well, sort of life.
And I think that's the other thing. I mean, again, I am impressed with the skill of people who create something that could be a photograph. But I think that the minute some of them can look very stationary and very kind of, that's it.
Yeah,
Whereas what I want to do is kind of give a sense of life to what we're doing and what we're seeing.
Definitely succeeds, because they always have a real emotive connection with you.
And I think that's the thing. Although they are, yes, they're inanimate objects, as we've said, you do create emotional attachments, and they become a part of your history and story, and so they are in that sense an emotional thing. So
sort of sometimes the dream can be better than the reality, and sometimes
they do say never meet your heroes,
exactly,
don't they? And
well, 1 time in 10 it works out fine, but
although I got to a couple of years ago, I got to drive an Alfa Romeo 105 coupe, one of the juniors.
Oh, lovely.
And it's a car I've loved, and it's one of my all-time favourite cars. And I drove it, and it more than lived up to expectations.
Yes, I'm glad you said that, because that's one of my favourites and one of my dream cars as well. And it's one of those cars that for the years and years I thought, I'm going to get one of those one day. They're only £20,000. I'll save up and get one of those. And suddenly they're not £20,000.
No, they're
and
not,
I don't think I'll ever have one.
No, I'd love to drive one of the Alphaholics ones, because they just are incredible machines.
There was one of those here, I think, at the Big Alpha Day. Car Day last summertime.
I mean, they just are, and there's I can appreciate them from a design point of view, because they're just beautiful shapes. The one I drove, I just loved from a driving point of view, and it was a, can you call them a base spec? You can't really, but it was a junior, so it was single headlamp. It was it hadn't been fettled that much. It was really, but it just felt brilliant.
They do, no matter how, let's say, basic they are, they all just have a connection. Even like the 1.4 litre versions of the noughties, 90s ones, still are more exciting than the faster versions.
So I drove that, and then very recently I was very privileged to be invited to go to Aston Martin Works, and I spent a day with them, and part of that was behind the wheel of a 1978 V8 Vantage.
Oh wow!
Which was the car that got me into cars.
Okay, which is the Bond car, or
no? So it was it was the Timothy Dalton one, and it was the car that featured in this Facebook post recently about the car that started your love of cars. And again, driving that, I was very conscious of, they say don't meet your heroes, but it was brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Well, that's good, because I often wonder about that particular model, where it looks such a bigger car than a lot of the other Astons. Is it going to feel like a big, heavy? I
mean, it is big, and it's not light, but it just, I don't know, it just wonderful things, really.
The connection with the car and the noise it makes. And
But then, funnily enough, I was very, been over at Morgan recently, over in the Malverns, and I was given a +4 for a weekend. And I've never really understood Morgans. They didn't necessarily kind of float my boat, as it were. But after a weekend of that Morgan, I got it.
Suddenly,
it just clicked, and I thought, my goodness, what an absolutely brilliant bit of kit.
I was like that with 911s.
Okay.
I never really got the appeal of 911s. They're ridiculous. Engines in the wrong place, and they're silly just old. And then I started working for a Porsche magazine and drove a few, and suddenly thought, actually,
now you know what it's about.
I get it now,
I've yet to scratch the 911 itch, but the Morgan was just, and it wasn't perfect. Objectively, it's not a perfect car. But it was just so what I like about cars.
Isn't that one of the definitions of beauty, though? Imperfection is beauty, or something?
Yeah, probably. It was just the whole experience, feel, noise, all of that. Just
all came together.
It all came together and clicked.
It's an experience.
And it's the same reason why I love those 1970s Astons. That they have an honesty and a warmth to them.
I came here today in the electric van, which on paper is perfect. It goes 250 miles for 0 pennies, makes no emissions, and it's relatively quick enough and blah 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 blah. But it's so boring.
I mean, in some senses there is a sense that some modern cars, I say some.
No, yeah.
Some are almost just kind of automotive white goods, really.
Yeah, there's nothing to latch on, no emotional connection at all.
Whereas, you know, I mean, obviously, the Morgan, the Aston, but Wilbur does the same thing for me. There is that sense of emotional connection, which you just...
Every time you climb in and turn the key, it's an event.
There's a warmth and
it's welcoming.
So,
yes. I know we have another Alpha as well.
Lots of Alphas and Astons feature heavily in my sketchbooks.
Which is good.
Which is very good. But yeah, the idea is about capturing this sense of, yes, it is inanimate, but there's a life to it.
Yeah, I love the writing you have. Do you remember what?
Yeah, so the writing came about, it was partly inspired by, there was an artist in supercar classics in the 80s and 90s called Bob Freeman, who used to draw the most wonderful... They were technical drawings, but they had colour and they had these lovely handwritten notes.
So just so much more than a technical drawing.
Yeah, and it gave it a life, and I love that. And also, it comes back to telling a story, that a car may have a story, that the owner of a car may have a story. So when I do a commission for somebody, and they ask about the text, and I say to them, well, what should we write? You know, is there a memory of your car that's really important to you? Some will be competition cars, so they'll have the competition history, but some will be, you know, well, I've saved up for 30 years and I finally bought the E-Type I wanted, or whatever, and we'll include that in the drawing as part of the text.
So the commissions are something you do on a semi-regular basis around everything else?
Yeah, I've got a very patient customer base who are very understanding and recognise that I'm here, there and everywhere. And so what it means is that I end up doing stuff that is maybe a kind of year after if somebody could, you know, or even 18 months or maybe 2 years.
Eventually they'll get around
Eventually they get it.
Yeah.
And partly it's a reflection that I just can't. There are only so many things I can do in one go. Really.
There's only so many hours in the day.
Yeah. And I'm still a dad, and I'm still a husband.
Yeah, the dog still need walking.
The dog's still need walking, and
And there's everything else. No, fantastic. Thank you very much indeed. This has been absolutely fantastic.
No, thank you.
We've probably talked far too long, but I've enjoyed every minute of it. And
lovely.
Thank you so much for your time. So
thank you.
Shake hands or wave or something. I don't know how we finish these things. It's the first one.
Yeah. Brilliant.
But no, thanks for talking to us.
No, thank you for wanting to tell a story.
No, it's been my pleasure. Revs Limiter is available on Facebook.
Facebook and Instagram as well. So, and we now have a YouTube channel, which we're putting stuff slowly get my head around YouTube.
Well, I'll put links to all of this in the bottom of the thing. So I'm facing the wrong way for the camera. I'll put links to all of this in the description below. So thanks, Adam, and well,
thank you very much.
Go do some drawing.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.